Welcome back to Beyond the Manual, and today we are looking at this swimming pool somewhere hiding behind me. We're not going to go through the assembly video. There are just vendor video. There are videos on videos, but I'm going to show you some of the things I do to make these temporary pools, maintenance-wise, significantly easier. Like I'm talking, when you have it up and running, you're going to spend like 5 minutes a week maintaining it. So if you want to learn how, stay tuned. All right, I will give you a walk around the pool here so you can see it. This is a Coleman brand, which is actually an easy way. I forget the name of it. I'll look it up and I'll throw it in the description. But it's a rebranded pool. It's been a long time since Coleman's actually made their own. But this is their quote Premier Series, and I'll put the model number in the description. It's their Power Steel. But it is a nice wicker finish. It has a nice pebble pool bottom. And this is my first pool where I'm using these plastic T Easy Go snap connectors. And I can say it's relatively breezy out where I live. And this is completely doable with 3 adults and maybe a kid just as a parts runner. But so far, super happy with the way it went up. Now, I will be honest with you here. I have had these temporary pools for a number of years, and every year I've taken them down, put them up, taken them down, put them up. And after I probably get about 2.5 years out of a pool doing that, honestly, it's just plastic, and it's very hard on it when you're folding it up, unfolding it, like anything else. So this year we took some extra care to level with sand. We got some patio bricks underneath the feet. They look a little high now. Trust me, they will settle. I've tried deck boards. I've tried 2x6s. I think this is going to be the ticket. They're a little thicker. By the time they settle, they should have compacted enough underneath it, and it's a rough enough surface where things aren't going to slide. Now, with that being said, this is an 18-footer, and what I do instead of using a tarp or anything else is, now if it's your first pool, I get it. So I've had probably 4 or 5 of these, and a couple years ago I had the idea, well, I'm going to cut out and save the bottoms because it's that thick pool material. I haven't had any weeds be able to grow through that, and it's going to give a nice base to the pool. You know, if you're like me and your sand came from the backyard, there's going to be rocks and other stuff in it, and if any of those get turned, it's going to be very hard to puncture through all 3 layers. Likewise, I take some pool scraps from previous pools. I always save some, and I have them just layered up around these bricks so that when the bottom of the pool starts to fill out, you know, that gap is going to narrow. That's just going to provide some extra protection from rubbing on the edge of that brick face, potentially. Now, again, I have had many pools, and the number one thing you can do is to go out, and now this might be overkill. I get it. This is a 400-pounder, but you can go and get a 200-pound sand filter. And you're going to spend the money on a Hayward, but trust me, it all plays into making this thing 5 minutes a week maintainable. And the reason is, the fact is, really, these pool companies give you a little pump out of a courtesy. People expect a pump to get one. But honestly, you could probably run that 24 hours a day and barely turn this water over. By turn over, I mean that theoretically draining it all out, filtering every ounce of water through a filter. You know, that's oversimplifying turning the water over in a pool. This thing I can run for probably 2, 4, 6, 8 hours a day in 2-hour intervals. You know, run some, stop some. And I probably turn the water over 3 or 4 times a day. This is a, 1.5 horsepower pump. And again, people would be like, oh, it's a bigger pump, going to take more electricity. But remember, you're not running this thing 24/7 if you're doing it with the supplied pump the right way. So yeah, if you start it, let it run for a couple hours, shut it off, it's really not drawing a ton more power when you look at it as a 24-hour day. And the only big current draw you're going to see is when that starts up. So that's what I have here. This is just a sand filter. Hayward, they have super nice valves, easy to find parts. They're supported everywhere. They're very easy to adapt to some of these nicer pool hoses. So Now this, let me see if I can find a picture and I'll show you how this is supposed to look here. I think we're gonna have a bonfire later, get rid of the Christmas tree. All right, so here you go. Here's the little pump they give you. I can promise you, if you're relying on that, you are going to struggle with a pool. And it doesn't show the filter. Okay, so I will explain to you how this comes, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. And again, this is all these parts and pieces you can find at any local pool shop. If you get everything, one brand, great. I can tell you I've done this enough where as long as you're confident in yourself and slow, this is completely doable. So what they give you are these guys. These are supposed to be your water blowback in the poolers. Okay. This I'm leaving. This is a intake to the pump. Okay. Just a little valve and intake. And then it goes through the pump and then blows back out 2 of these. Why 2, I don't know. But now you can get somewhere I have my bucket of parts. You can get the Hayward brand ones. That's what this is. They come straight 90, a whole bunch of configurations. I happen to have some left from earlier pools. So what I've done is, now you can just trace, this is from the Summer Waves pool that come with a skimmer. But you can trace that hole and you can see it is already reinforced. So don't be afraid to cut a bigger hole in there. I promise you're not going to hurt it. Just go careful, and you want a perfect circle. You don't want like jagged edges, because those jagged edges will end up tearing and splitting, right? So take a very sharp knife, go slow, perfect circle. If you do get a jagged edge, just either work it down with a little sandpaper or take your knife and easily work it back into a curve. Now, this looks a little bad on this side because this one was bound up pretty hard. I had to get the big AZZ channel locks out and fix that. So now where those 2 ones are, I have these angled. So now one's going to kind of angle up, one's going to angle down. So when water flows back in the pool, we're going to get good movement of stuff off the bottom, and the stuff on the top is going to be creating a flow. And that's kind of the way I found, if you can use the pump to kind of create, whether clockwise or counterclockwise, a flow, it helps stagnant water, helps from bugs landing in it, other things from being able to breed in it, birds wanting to land in it, all the things. Sounds silly, but I promise I've been doing this long enough on an amateur basis to know. So I got those in, and I actually use some high temp. You can find this in the fireplace at your local Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. This is the high temp silicone sealant, and I like this because it's made in the USA, and it's high temp, meaning you can see the temperature rating there. And to me, that's worth it because this pool is going to sit out, and it's going to get heat from that UV heat we can't see, plus so both sets of infrared heat, if you will. And even though we have rubber gaskets, where that gasket sits in here and meets the pool, I'll lay a bead of that silicone. Now, yes, you could argue, we're never going to get that back out of there. That's fine. When this thing, in 3 to 5 years, I have to replace it, I'll just go and get the Hayward versions, whatever. If I do wreck these leftover pieces, so be it. So that's our sand pump. It's in its winterized state. I haven't gotten it quite ready yet. Here's where I said it's sucking water from the pool. We're going to keep it. I think it's worth sucking water in. That's just virgin water, if you will. But the other thing we're doing is we're going to add a skimmer to this. And again, there's a bunch of videos on this. I'm going to show you what I do. It's probably the number, I don't know, let's say pump is number 1 for pool cleanliness, tidiness. Not having, hey, buddy, oh, it's a pretty boy. Yes, I am. It's his birthday, by the way, the dog. So I have an old one. I went and bought a new one just because you're going to see here. This is from the old pool, but I kept it just for this video. So if you can imagine, this is the pool liner. Yep. So this is the Hayward Skimmer we're installing. It's a smaller guy, but that's all right. And again, The nice thing about this is you can cut the square hole, bolt all this together, and then work your knife around the inside to cut it out. So you don't have to worry about scarring, stretching, whatever else. Now here, if you have a summer waves pool, no big deal. You can see it's already reinforced here, okay? Where this pool is only gonna be a single sheet, and that's okay, and I'll show you why. And you can see here the reason I got a new one is because I didn't feel like cutting this. I'll probably sell this to someone who will take the time to clean it up. But I actually silicone around that whole edge just to make sure we don't get any nuisance water drips. But honestly, this thing didn't leak a drop last year. So we are going to suck water, and this goes inside. This is for the, if you want to do a pool vac, I'll save that. I'll put this link on Amazon. That's where I got it. That's where I buy these from. They're cheaper there. They ship really fast. So we will suck water in from the one you saw A. That'll be like virgin water, if you will. And this one, we will kind of, once the water gets high enough, we'll kind of gauge where we want our water level to be. And I like to set these. Again, somebody will probably say from the pool industry, that's not right. Yep, you're probably right, but it's how I do it. So say we think our pool water is going to go this high, okay? You can see I'll mount this basically so that the skimmer is about 3/4-ish underwater. You want to think about it as 2/3, that's fine too. 1, 2, 3, it's probably easier to think about in thirds, 2/3 underwater. Now, yes, I could go with a bigger skimmer that's wider, etc., allows more water flow. However, that also means it's heavier, and these walls are obviously not steel walls. So, what I do is to help the balance is this is just a piece of Pelican foam. I'll put the link in the description. You can just cut it, and it acts as a sweet buffer to hold that bottom in once your pool's full of water. That really relieves the stress from here. And the other reason is that pump, it moves water, okay? It moves water. And if you set this too low, you're gonna create a whirlpool, suck in air, cavitate the pump. It's just gonna be a nightmare. So I like keeping these so that at pool level height, it's 2/3, if you will, underwater. Okay, that is the long and short on that. Walk back around. We might touch on the lawnmower in a future video. There's projects there too. We just got up the pool house. That's going to kind of be where the kids can shove their floaties in, hopefully. All right, so the nice thing about using these, if you can even find the summer wave things, you might be able to Amazon them. If you can, I'll look. And the nice thing about those is the hoses that come with all this. If I move some stuff out of my way, are designed, oh, not that one, make me a liar. One of these hoses fits up in there, okay? So that makes it nice. You can run some hoses. These also I found fit these Hayward hoses. And again, I'll throw the link. Actually, I bought this on Amazon too. A good deal. But those these hoses will go right over these summer wave fittings. Just threw new O-rings on there. And I just throw a metal clamp up against this lip. Don't over tighten it, you don't have to. You can put just a touch of silicone around that ring, pop this on with a clamp, it's not going anywhere. By that I mean it's just gonna be sealed. You can definitely get it off yet. Just don't go too heavy on the silicone, because this is real silicone. Okay, so we've touched on that. So what we're going to end up doing is, I think right about here, probably close to this pole, just to help with hose management. I haven't figured out, I will probably put a splitter at the bottom of this, like a T, maybe like a, I'm gonna get it wrong, but a swooping T, if that makes sense. I think they call it a sewage T. That's threaded. So we'll have the basket, we'll have the skimmer basket. On the bottom, there's some threads, similar to, I don't know if I have an example of it. I don't. Oh yeah, similar to this, right? Your typical 1.5 inch pool threads. And then off the bottom of the skimmer, we'll come over and catch this. And then this already has a valve, we can throttle that. But this has plenty of suction power, so that's the plan here. And then we'll sweep the hose over to that, and then this will come into the pump off the bottom of that T, is my plan. And then for the return, we will likely use... Sorry, my allergies have been terrible. Well, here's the T. This actually looks like it's a pretty good flowing T. So, we will probably swap out the hose on there, run this T, probably try to get it so we can zip tie it. I like to stress relieve things when I can, and these poles work great for that. You don't have to zip tie it tight, it's just enough if it can hang without stressing these or stressing the plastic, all the much better. So we'll use this, we'll tee into both of these for the return. That's how we're going to do that, at least in theory for now. That came with the pool kit. See, look at this little pump. There, I'm sorry. You will never, ever, 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 ever keep a pool clean with that. Just, you won't. That's why people give up on pools. And let's talk about one other thing. You can kind of notice, well, maybe you can't. The sun is kind of behind me, so west is that way-ish. And I do that for a reason. I mean, I have the pool set up here for a reason, not just, kind of keeping the pump in a corner, but keep in mind, one of the hardest things on your pool equipment is going to be the sun. So the sun sets that way, all right? So from, I don't know, 11:30 noon all the way to sunset, this equipment's going to be taking a beating. So I kind of keep it on the east side of things, so at least it'll be more in the shade than not. That's going to be easier on these fittings. It's going to be easier on your hoses, all the plastic bits, all of it. Even then, you will still have to eventually replace these as the UV bakes the crap out of them. Okay, so I gave you the skinny on that. Now, let's talk about safety, grounding. Yes, this is a metal box. It's a pool. I have a metal building behind me. I'm not going to get into it just for liability reasons, but make sure you're grounded properly if you're going to do this yourself. That's all I'm going to say about that. Make sure you're using ground fault interrupters, GFCIs. Okay, now this goes for whether it's automotive or pool or fittings or anything. I've always struggled sealing threads, and I'm not a plumber, I'm an electrician. And I will swear on my family's name that this stuff, Blue Monster TTFE pipe thread, it's the blue and it's got to be the wide. Come here, you. But 3 wraps of this on, I think I go 2 wraps on metal pipe. No, I go 4 on metal, I think 3 on plastic. 3 wraps of this on plastic threads. Snug plus a quarter, you will not have a drip or a leak. This stuff is amazing. The Blue Monster wide pipe tape. And I think this stuff is also, can be used for gas. I'd have to look. I know it's made in China and that's disappointment. But it does work very, 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 very well for threading, for running in all of these fittings and not getting any leaks. Okay. What else is there to talk about? Oh, yes. So you can do this a couple different ways. Now, I'm an electrician, so I can do this. Inside here is just a... Let's make sure there's no bees in here. That'd be fun. Watching me get stung on YouTube video. All right. Oh, moldy. Yum. We don't need that. Oh, it's stinky. So this is just a box to hold this timer. This is a... You can go to your local electrical distributor, get this box. It's stainless steel. Doesn't cost that much. This one's made by Hoffman. But all I use it for is just to house a regular old timer. Now, one of the projects, I mean, I spent a lot of money this year, maybe not this year, is to put a contactor in here and like a Wi-Fi switch. So from my phone, we haven't really talked about this on the channel yet, but I am a big home automation guy, a DIY, and I've been with Home Assistant now in that platform for a long time. Home Assistant is absolutely great. We're not going to get into it now, but it does give you the ability to just about integrate any piece of electronic under the sun. So that is the goal eventually. Drill a hole with a grommet, weatherproof grommet, stick an antenna out, and be able to have a better scheduling process for the turning the pump on and off, or at least being able to do it from your phone without having to open up that box. Sounds kind of silly, but it comes in handy when you want to vacuum. You can just put your phone on the ladder and switch the pump on and off when you want to disconnect and connect things. Okay, last thing I do is I know a lot of landscapers, there's a lot of money in landscaping. But what I like to do is, a lot of times if you are thrifty, actually let's talk about thrifty. So I paid $150 for this pool. If you start looking around July through October, you will almost always find someone brand new in a box, significantly cheaper than ever buying it in the store. And if you plan ahead, I mean, my goodness, I think for a 20-foot permanent pool is like at least in this area, $28,000 or so. I can buy a lot of $150 pools that last 3 to 5 years for that kind of money. Okay. Also, if you look on your Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, wherever you do business, a lot of times you'll be able to find this artificial turf. And I'm not talking about the stuff you buy from Home Depot. This stuff, oftentimes you can find it where it already has like 17 million pounds of rubber pellets in it, which, yes, make a mess initially, but it helps keep everything down in place. You don't have to go buy the turf and then buy the pellets and get them into the threads of this stuff. I will actually take the shop vacuum and I will go through this with a vacuum cleaner, kind of lift the strands back up, clean off all the seeds and sand and dust when we're all done here. But I'll actually take this stuff and I crudely cut it to fit around the pool. That takes up this extra gap. I do recommend always leaving 2 feet or so when you're leveling. It helps for backwash. It helps for erosion control. So does this. So having this around your pool on top of the sand will also help for erosion control. Obviously, when the water hits that, it spreads out that weight significantly more than just water hitting sand, divoting it, washing it away. Believe me, you can wash out sand from under a pool. You can ask me how I know. Trust me, you can do it. So we'll finish as soon as the pool is filled enough, and I know I don't have to adjust these blocks and legs in and out a dozen times as pool fills up. We'll throw all these back. I'll bring you back for when we're all done. You can kind of take a look at what the whole setup looks like when we're done. And the ladder we're not going to use. Again, these are relatively expensive, brand new. We've had this one for a couple years now. But again, this is a marketplace find. You can probably get them for $200 on Marketplace or less. And I like it because you can lock them. And they're security-ish, right? Yeah, any kid can probably still make his way up there just like any other pool. But I like it. We don't have to deal with taking the ladder in and out. It's much more stable. The kids like jumping off the top. So keep it in mind. It's something potentially worth looking at new. I will say, though, again, just be wary if you're in an area where you have a lot of bees, wasps, hornets. They do like making homes in here, and my kids end up getting stung last year. I had to take a hose and spray all their nests out of the sides of these. Same with these. I'll probably actually silicone that hole shut so I don't end up with bees in there this year. Other than that, it's been awesome. I treat this thing like garbage, and it just keeps on taking it. It's a good little ladder. Also, the braces for this, I do not drill these into my pool. I'll actually take Velcro straps, which are somewhere on the floor here, and I'll Velcro this right to the pool. You can get that pretty tight. It doesn't slide around a lot, and you're not giving another place for these poles to rust. So I haven't tested with a magnet. These might actually be aluminum now. I'll have to let you know in the description what I find out. But I'm going to just work this around, make sure I don't have to do any extra leveling. We got quite a bit to fill up yet before I cut that skimmer in. What you want about that is, I would say, if you're going to cut a skimmer in like I am, wait until you are about maybe halfway up. So maybe just below this jobber right here. That makes sure this is nice and taut, because you will have to take, there's videos on that I'm not going to show you, but I'd take a punch, a sharp one, and just punch all the holes out. And then I put the screws through those little punched holes. And that keeps all this nice and flat, so you don't end up with a wrinkle. You want it nice and flat, all the wrinkles out, so you get a good seal on the rubber and silicone and everything else. And I'll just as this fills, quickly turn, take. Just make sure this is sitting nice and flush. Some of these legs are going to have to be adjusted in and out. It's a good time just to inspect it. Don't be like that. See, like this is what I would say is a manufacturing defect. And left untreated could potentially puncture, cause a leak. Let's see if we can find that on the inside. Yeah, so you can see right there, it's a little weak spot. So what I'm actually gonna do now, since it's dry, is take some of that silicone, just quickly, zoop, the inside and outside. Yeah, you might see it, but it's gonna give it some strength, bond pretty well to it, especially in the hot sun, and you don't have to ever worry about it. Those are the things I like to look for now. Try to take care of while the pool's dry. Again, you're just trying to reduce the amount of time you invested in this during the week. All right, I'll bring you back when we're all done. All right, we got some updates. The hoses I came with did not fit these. I thought they did, but they didn't. So again, you don't have to overcomplicate this type of stuff. I went to the local pool shop. I think these hoses were like 15 bucks a piece. I got a 3-footer, a 4-footer, and then another 4-footer that I replaced going in the tank. And all I'm doing is splitting the output, again, that's the output back to the pool, into a straight T for equal, as close as you can get to equalization. And then just a stainless clamp on the new O-ring. And then this is what this is going to look like. We'll have the side port coming over to that. And the bottom, of course, will attach to our suction line that's sitting behind me. And then we can get that bolted back down for the summer. I just unbolted it and stuck it in the storage container for winter. While I was out, I got a new got a new 1.5 by 25 waste line for backwashing the filter. So now again, like I said, this is a single panel, whereas like the summer waves already have some extra support in here for hanging this. So my plan is to use some of that silicone glue. We're gonna smear it on the back, maybe go white side, do it like that. You know what, this white side's probably, but this is printed too, maybe it doesn't matter. And we're gonna stick that back here with some silicone glue. We'll take a credit card and kind of smooth that out to make sure we get as good of adhesion as we can. I'll take some wax and grease remover on this. And then we will then go on the inside, put this up against the pool wall, poke our holes through with a sharp scribe or something, and then slowly start inserting screws, and then we'll mate it up to this. Tighten, get the screws and the gaskets tight, and then we'll take our knife and cut this out. Smear everything with silicone once again. And we'll get this hung. I got to get that foam block off the other one, get it ready for here. But we're probably about, where's the pool level, about that high. So this is plenty straight at this point to start this process, and that can be done. We can get everything plumbed and hooked back up and clamped, so we can just let the pool fill and not have to worry about leaking water all over the place. Birthday dog. All right. You don't want to see me with my shirt off. So I'm going to get this piece prepped, get it glued on, smeared tight as best we can. Get this mounted, and then I will kind of show you the end result. All right, here is the finished product with all the turf back around it. We're probably about halfway filled. Here's how it turned out. So I ended up using in this configuration, actually glued down really nice. I ended up using a 3-footer, 4-footer, 3-footer, 3-footer, 4-footer back to the pump, the filter. So, well, I'm sure we'll have to chase down a few leaks here and there, but I really don't think it's going to be too terrible. Again, so we're going to pull water in here through the sand filter and then out both of those. So here's how that turned out. Again, you can watch a video on it, but basically you can start with get a torch and a poke. You want to melt your holes so you don't split them. Put 4 screws in, get it mounted without the gasket. And then you can use this as an edge to cut out. I do an X and then work my way around. And you can put in the gasket. I silicone both sides. You don't have to over tighten this. I normally tighten it till I just get a little bulge and I stop. Once all that sets up, that will be good. And then I got my foam block, silicone back in place, again, just to help with vibration and to hold the bottom end of this, because remember, these aren't steel. This is just, well, in this case, this is just a single layer with a layer I glued on. But I think we're gonna get good adhesion. I think That'll certainly help. It's not going to hurt. I hope. And we got some electrical to do, but all the clamps are on. I have it on backwash. The hose is out. So what I like to do is I just let them, at this stage, I'll just let them fill and basically burp out all the air out the waste. And then we'll crack the lid, make sure that's fully primed. Crank her up. We'll backwash for a while until it's clean. Rinse, and then we'll add our clarifier chemicals and shock at that time when we get water moving. And I'll actually show you what I use. I really like this stuff, especially if you have a well like we are. We're on a well here in the Midwest. We have a store here called Menards. It's kind of a big box store local to the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Iowa. And this is the brand. They have two versions. This is the Iron Mite, but this is the one I use once we got clean water. So it's a concentrate clarifier, Utichem, and I tell you what, it doesn't take much. 2 ounces is what I use every week. This is probably an 8,000-ish gallon pool, so it's a little more, but that's what I've had the best luck with, and this stuff will turn your water crystal clear, I promise you. So normally this is what I use to start off with, just because we do have a little bit higher iron content here in our well. And so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, it's something different than automotive and things that move. We'll come back to that. That was the aftermath of the golf cart video. But I hope this showed you some modifications and, you know, take my insight for what it's worth. I'm not a professional pool guy, but I've been doing this long enough to know what works and what doesn't. And me being genuinely lazy most of the time, I prefer to work smarter, not harder. And like I said, following this with the right chemicals and keeping up on it, 5 minutes every week and you're done. Test strips, chemicals, walk away. And you'll end up with a whole summer, if you're in the South, year-round crystal clear water. All right, until next time, thanks for watching Beyond the Manual.